Hi, we're up on the rocks to push our luck and push our trucks, bringing you something about RC rock crawling from Radio Racecar. Hi, we're going to bring you all the inside info and all the technical highlights of RC rock crawling. Show you guys that say, I don't get it, it's not a race car. We're going to prove they are. We've got Pete here. He's been out with me doing cars, bikes, trucks, all sorts. When he got hold of his first rock crawler, we spent weeks trying to get to grips with it, understanding what makes them work, what makes them tick. He's about the most enthusiastic guy I've met with rock crawling, and he's been running with it ever since.
I first got into rock crawling at the end of 2007 with my first axial review. Over the last 2 years, I've seen the sport blossom, I've seen the technology change, and I've seen more and more manufacturers getting on board the rock crawling scene. And this year, the 2009 Nationals will, to me, be the pinnacle of what we've been working to over the last 2 years.
Rock crawling's come a long way in the years. Started off really basic, and now there's major manufacturers online. And there's lots of new technology coming out all the time, new ideas, new upgrades, new option parts. We're going to take a look at a few of them, show you what you're missing.
Rock crawling started in the late 80s with a group of enthusiasts taking rigs like the Clodbuster and the Ford Pickup and actually creating their own rock crawlers from those. What actually brought it to the masses was the Axial AX10, a rig that you could take out of the box and run anywhere, and it was actually winning competitions from the first day it was released.
Now we've got all sorts of manufacturers from Axial, Venom, Yokomo.
You've got RC four-wheel drive, you've got En Route, and you've got Lossy.
HPI, Kyosho and Tamiya.
LRP, Duratrax and Nitrotech. There's also a vast array of accessories and hop-ups on the market from companies like Proline, RC four-wheel drive and 3 Racing, and it's ever expanding.
We're going to have a quick look at some of the cars, what sizes, what makes them different from one another. You've got your little 1.9 class and your 2.2. The main difference is the rules are set by the diameter of the wheels. You can have any size tyre you like, as long as the rim itself is 1.9, the rim itself is 2.2. You've got overall dimensions and you've got overall body dimensions to work within, but apart from that the rules are pretty open. The 1.9 class is your basic beginner's class, it's still evolving. Your scalers are pretty much for specialised trailing, fun, creativity specialist. Your 2.2 is your competition rig. Their overall dimensions are set down in the rules, body dimensions. You can't only have two-wheel steer, but you can have a dig unit at the back. We'll tell you more about that later. But it's basically a four-wheel drive, two-wheel steer, off-road truck. The 1.9 class, smaller wheels, lower ride height, can't get over the big stuff that the 2.2s can. And they're a bit more fun, a bit more backyard, a bit more general use. The Losses, sort of two-wheel steer, four-wheel drive. You've got the Yokomo that can be made four-wheel steer, and it's still four-wheel drive. Just a good all-round, fun, general use machine. Scalers are basically 2.2 rigs, but they're more about the detail, more about the realism. Things like real working winches, roof racks with tools and cool boxes full of beer, spare tyres, details, winch hooks. It's all about the realism. The size of the wheels, 2.2, 1.9, it's neither here nor there. The rules aren't hard and fixed. It's all about the fun, all about the details.
Let's do a piece on body shells. This is a standard 2.2 body shell. As you can see, it's made of Lexan. This is actually the first rig we ever reviewed in late 2007, and over the time we've been running it, we've had to cut away so much of the wheel arches due to the rig's articulation that it's losing its original military truck shape. This is how it's progressed. This is one of the latest competition rigs that a friend of mine's actually built for this year's Nationals, and if you look, the actual body shell has been designed to clear the wheels, so at maximum articulation it'll hardly even touch. It's actually very slammed as well, very low down. It keeps the centre of gravity as low as the rig itself. This is an alternative to a Lexan shell. It's an aluminium tube chassis. It actually is more resilient than a Lexan shell, and if you do scratch it you can change the panels very easily, and it'll actually take far more abuse than a body shell. Now for hard bodies. The great thing about an injection moulded hard body is they can actually put far more detail into it than a Lexan pulled shell, and if you look at it, it's far more realistic and true to life as a shell. The downside of this is it takes a lot more to actually paint and put the detailing on, and if you do scratch it and damage it, it's going to take a lot longer to repair. Prepping a body like this actually took me 3 days, flatting back, priming and painting, and the sky's the limit on how far you want to go with the detailing. On this I put working lights, the spotlights, the headlamps work. It's got a high lift jack on the back and the rear lights also work. So as I say, sky's the limit, take it as far as you want with the detail. This is the Lexan scale shell. It's far lighter than an injection moulded hard body, so the centre of gravity of the rig will be lower. Again, highly detailed, lots of accessories are available for this, and things like the spare wheel and cover I made myself to actually add to the realism. The downside to this is they can't put as much detail into it as an injection moulded shell, but I think you'll agree it's still quite realistic in its looks. Now let's take the bodies off and have a look in detail at what's underneath them.
There's several basic concepts that are important to the overall performance of the chassis, and we're going to take a closer look at a couple of them. This is your typical twin vertical plate, central primary drive, prop shaft to front and rear differential cases. You can see where the motor should go to drive the primary, down the drive shafts, out through the central drive, through two telescopic into two differentials. So you've got one motor, two diffs, prop shafts. The biggest thing about this is you get lots of ground clearance because you're up high, but it puts your centre of gravity high. And as the torque reaction to the central prop shaft rotates the front drive shaft, you can lose grip and turning circle. The easiest way to get rid of torque twist in the chassis is to remove the central drive line, put a motor on each end. So let's have a look. This is the Yokomo 1.9. It's a very basic rig, but it shows the concept of a twin motor layout. See how you've got a motor front and back? So you've got no prop shafts. You can put a motor on the rear gearbox, a motor on the front gearbox. You can drive them both off one speed controller, or you can get fancy and run separate speed controllers for each axle. You can drive them independently on separate sticks. So you can drive just the front wheels, drive just the back wheels, drive them together, drive them opposite directions. If you want to really mix it up, stick four-wheel steer on top of that, and you've got a real challenge on your hands. The beauty of it is, because you've got a motor drive and a straight gearbox, both ends you've got zero chassis twist. You can run it really low, really soft. You don't get any wheel lift as the motors dig in.
Chassis also come in a variety of materials and are manufactured in different ways. And here we have a twin vertical plate chassis, but it's actually made of Delrin. It's a very lightweight material, very strong, and has a slight bit of flex to it. This is actually a competition rig that's been designed for this year's Nationals and is completely homegrown. We also have more commercial chassis like the Diablo from RC 4-wheel drive, which you can also fit an aluminium tuber upper chassis to, so you don't have to run it with a body shell on. It's still perfectly comp legal, great finish to this, very well manufactured. Also available are chassis made in different materials like composite carbon fibre. With all chassis, an important aspect is to have as much variation in the geometry as possible, giving you the opportunity to change shock placement and link geometry. Another aspect of chassis design is the skid plates used. Here we have the original axial skid plate used on all their AX10 crawlers. The skid plate actually has channels lengthways down its moulding to stop it skidding sideways when caught up on rocks. Another two materials used are aluminium or steel skid plates and Delrin, which is a very hard, very slippery surface, which to my mind is the best material to use. Chassis are important, but probably the most important aspect of all crawlers are the tyres used. Show us your boots, Des.
Without question, above chassis, suspension, geometry, everything else, the contact with the rock itself is the most important concept in rock crawling. If you haven't got the right boots on, you ain't going nowhere. You can get large and small tyres. If you've got a really slammed rig, it's running really low, you can run larger diameter tyres to jack it back up again. Keeps your centre of gravity low, increases your footprint. If you're running higher, you run smaller tyres to get the chassis back down again. You can run a really blocky pattern for general sort of running about, even tarmac, without wearing them out. If you're running across mud and up rocks, you need a more open tyre pattern that's going to self-clear. So otherwise you're going to end up with a really nice shiny brown slick. So an open tread pattern is essential. It's going to flex, it's going to flick the mud out, get back down to the grip. All the manufacturers have brought out different compounds, different tread patterns, different specialist jobs for the boots to do. As important as the tyres are, what's inside the tyre is equally important. If you haven't got the right insert, you haven't got the effective pressure you need to keep the tyre up, to let it deform to objects and obstacles in its path. But if you haven't got the right insert, the tyre doesn't even come into it. This is a star-cut pattern. Lets the tyre deform between each of the fingers, gives it a sort of climbing ability. But typically they come square cut. They also come in two different types. They don't look the same. There's a square cut foam, there's a square cut foam. That's your regular foam, that's memory foam. I'll try and explain to you what the difference is. You ready? Standard foam, memory foam. See how the memory foam's slower to react? I'll do that again for you. Standard foam, memory foam. Ready? 3, 2, 1. See how the foam's slow to react? It comes back in shape eventually. It's like a slow rebound. This is too springy. You can bounce off rocks with that. That'll just deform, soak stuff up. As well as foam inserts, some people use lead shot, even plastic beads, to give like a extra ballast to the tyre, give it weight low down. Your regular rims, got your 2 B clamps to hold your tyres onto the rims. So there's no glue required. You can undo your bolt pattern, flick your tyre off, change your insert, change your whole tyre if you like in minutes. Not a problem. No glue, no debonder required. Heavy rims definitely help, but if you want, you can add weight to those rims. Fill the centre channel up with lead. Make it good half-pound heavier. People like Venom are actually coming out with their own weight kits dedicated to their rims. Bolt-on weights. No mess, no fuss. Super heavy. I'd nearly drop Pete's rig every time I pick it up. By the time you've got your tyre assembled onto your rim, you should have a super squishy, self-breathing tyre that can deform and bounce back controllably. There's 2 ways you can fail a crawl. You can lose grip and slide back. You can have so much grip, you can over-center and roll off the rock. We're going to take a look at a couple of those failure modes later, but for now we're going to have a look at motors, batteries, technology that makes them actually turn the wheels. This is why wheel speed is important. You need about 8 miles an hour, because anything slower you can't get over. There's a nice slow crawl, it hasn't got any pop. If you've got enough speed, that's pop.
Moving this much rig around takes a lot of power, so here we have a selection of both brushed and brushless systems, which I'll talk you through. Here we have a Marbushi 540 motor. It's a motor that everybody into RC cars will recognise, and it is used in crawling, but only in rigs like the Tamiya that runs about a 70:1 gear ratio. Motors like the RS 540 are actually too powerful to put in a standard rig like the Axial, so what companies have developed is 50 turn and above motors that are high wind and high torque for that application. The 50 turn Fireball by Venom is actually a modified type cam motor. It's fully rebuildable, runs on ball bearings, and as long as you skim it and maintain it, will last you season after season of crawling. The obvious progression from a brush motor is new technology like brushless, with sensored and sensorless versions available on the market. With a sensorless brushless system, you have virtually a maintenance-free running. It can be waterproof, but the downside is you have drag brakes, but you can't set a hill brake in it because there's no sensoring of the motor. Sensored brushless systems like the Novak and the LRP actually give you more fine control when you're running them. They will hold on a hill brake, but they're actually using power to do so. But by far of the 2 systems, the sensored is the best to run in a crawler.
We talked about the importance of hill brakes. Without hill brakes, you'd come to a section, finger off the throttle, it would just roll out a shot. Nothing you can do about it. You've got to apply brakes and then you risk reversing. And reversing's more points, isn't it, Pete?
Yep.
So, the only motor that can do that is a sensored brushless. You can come into a section and it just holds until you touch the throttle. Look, I'm not applying brakes, not applying anything, it's just holding there, but it's using power to do it. So you've got to remember to turn it off when you're finished, or it's sucking power out your batteries just sitting on the bench. Anywhere I like, I can just stop that, let go of the throttle, and it holds. See that? Look, Mum, no hands.
With a brush motor, if I let it roll under its own weight, sticks off, watch what happens. It won't hold itself in a stationary position. One feature you need with all speedos, whether they're brushed or brushless, is the ability to get instant reverse. If you're climbing up something and your rig's about to roll back, you want to be able to blip the throttle to put it back on its wheels again. Driving your motor in your speedo is your batteries and your cells. Where you place them, what you do with them, affects the rig's performance. When you first build your rig, most manufacturers put a stick pack quite high up on the chassis. The first thing serious crawlers do is get rid of the stick pack and place a small LiPo battery next to the servo on an aftermarket plate available from companies like Axial. It lowers the centre of gravity, puts the weight forward, and actually helps with crawling. Something I do get asked a lot is, what is a dig unit? It's an add-on piece of mechanical hardware that allows the rear drive shaft, the prop shaft of a rig, to be locked or unlocked, and allows a rig to turn in a very tight turning circle, almost like a handbrake. This is a mechanical dig fitted to a standard transmission. It uses a servo and a push rod to actually enable or disenable drive to the rear diff, and it either locks or unlocks it, allowing the rig to turn around on its axis. Another variation on a mechanical dig is the Kyosho. It's actually built into the axle itself, and it allows, as I say, drive, lock or unlock actions, and it's a far neater unit than having a bolt-on dig. Another new technology is built into the Venom 2.2 competition rig, which is remote lock and unlock differentials. It's not a true dig, but what it does is allows you to turn the rig in a very tight turning circle in competition. The remote lock and unlock diffs built into the Venom are controlled by two small servos. They actually pull a wire which activates the locking or unlocking mechanism within the diff itself. Another type of mechanical dig is the direct bolt-on for the AX10 transmission. As with other digs, a small high torque servo is used to actually activate and deactivate it. There are three positions to this dig: drive, locked or freewheel. And as you can see, drive to the front wheels is still active, while the rear is locked like a handbrake, allowing the rig to pivot around whichever wheel is closest to your turning circle. Another important part of any crawler are the shocks used in the build. First, we have a standard crawler shock, nitrided shock shaft, very soft spring, and about a 30 weight oil used. Another type used in crawlers is a droop shock. It actually has an internal spring as well as shock oil, and it's the weight of the wheels that gives the articulation to the rig. A third type is a hybrid of the two, and it's a semi-droop shock. What a semi-droop shock will allow the rig to do is actually for the axles to articulate under compression as well as drop into surfaces and over objects by elongating.
Within the diff cases, there's two types of gear drive you can get: worm gear and bevel gear. We're going to try and explain the difference for you. On my left, I've got a bevel gear drive, which is typical of the Axial and so many other trucks, the HPI included. On my right hand, I've got a worm gear drive, as used in the Lossy comp rig and the Kyosho Rockforce. And this is how a bevel gear works. The small pinion gear turns the larger spur, but inversely the spur can turn the pinion, which is why you get descent brakes and you have to hold it. That's bevel gears. And this is a typical worm gear drive. The spiral cut worm gear turns and pulls the teeth along. Now you can only drive it, you can't be driven. The big gear can't drive the little gear, so you don't need a dig, you don't need drag brakes. As soon as you stop, the axle's locked. So that's your different gears. You can change the ratio of these gears to overspeed a front. Typically, it seems to be the new in vogue, doesn't it, Pete?
Yeah.
And by overspeeding the front, you get different handling characteristics. If you've got the same ratio front and rear drive, they're all turning the same speed. You put a higher ratio in the front, it drives faster than the rear and pulls the rig along, keeping it nice and low. That's about it for gears. Let's see some in action.
If you've got no rocks, what do? Well, you do what Rob at GB Models did and build your own course. It's made from cast-off builders' materials, concrete and things they found lying around. It rivals any natural course anywhere in the UK.
We're up at Brackham Rocks for the Rock Crawling Nationals. We're going to hit the rocks, run through a couple of sheets of rules and show you how you accrue points.
We'll also be covering all aspects of the dig and showing how they're used in competition.
So let's hit the rocks and rack up some points. We're going to look at some gates and some penalties for different ways of failing them. Go on, Pete, take it up through the first gate. Coming into the second gate, the front axle's through okay, but the rear's touched. That's a touch penalty. You can still score a gate touch without actually touching it. The front axle is going for the gate, but the one wheel's inside, so effectively he's gone over the centre of the gate. It's effectively a touch. He didn't actually touch it. Same points, same fail. You can only get one gate fail per gate, so even if you fail the front axle and the rear axle, you only get one penalty. He's going to touch it with the front wheel. There's his gate fail. And touch it with the back wheel, but he's already failed the gate, so you can't accrue any more points on that. He's passed the gate. The only way to get through a gate without scoring any penalty points is to get both axles through both gates without touching or missing. Front axle's clear, rear axle's clear. As you clear each gate and you accrue penalties, you get points taken off for clearing each gate. You get 1 point progress bonus. Pete's going to show us dig action with two very close gates, 90 degrees apart. With the dig, you can just lock the back axle and drag the front round using the front drive. And there's your gate clear, no penalties. But without the dig, he's got to reverse up, take a penalty to get an angle onto the ledge. With the front dig, you can lock the front axle, drive the rear to swing it round and clear a gate you might not otherwise. There's the front lock solid, spins the axle around, drives through. Without a dig on steep declines, you can just roll clean over the front. But with a dig, you can put it on like a handbrake and drag the back axle over the ledge and drive away. Well, the course setters have been busy. They've had a look around the rocks available and they've been out. Most common marker is a tennis ball chopped in half, 2 gate markers, virtually free. On the market now is things like these from Axial, little rubber suckers. Nice little handy gate markers, but by far the most common is your old tennis ball chopped in half. So let's have a look and see what they've got in stock for us on section 1, shall we? Gate 1, you'll be starting between these 2 dots, heading this way. Up the rocks, through gate 1, fairly easy, bit of a giveaway, make sure everybody gets at least 1 gate under the belts. You're in for your first climb, there's a bit of mud, it's quite a ledge, there's a little ridge there that can catch out low chassis. They've got a sharp drop off, again, you could see some rollovers. Got to get through gate 3 and then there's a really sharp turn right towards gate 4. Nothing particularly in between the two, just a sharp turn that will benefit the dig users. Probably put 2 or 3 reverse penalties in for the guys without. Getting towards halfway through the course now, you're probably starting to get settled in, nerves are balanced out a little bit. You come through gate 4, you've got a choice, you can either try and stay tight on the rocks, you can come out on the loose. The loose might be wet, it's going to sticky up your tyres, make the next climb a little bit harder. You've got a couple of choices here. You've got a bibble bobble there, you've got quite a protuberance there. Got to try and get through gate 5, these two. Gate 6, you've got a choice. You're trying to stay on the rock and risk a gate touch or come up through the ravine. Maybe going to get wedged. See how the slipper clutch copes with that. Got a steep climb, it's going to test your tyres because it's very smooth. Coming through gate 7, you've got a very sharp ridge. It's going to catch up some chassis, leave you hanging, sitting on the balance. Get through that, you've got a fairly easy climb on a flat rock, but you're looking at a sharp drop off. You're going to see digs in action, dropping down there with a bit of a handbrake action and make it through this one but last gate. Having dropped down this rock and made this gate without turning over, you think the worst is beyond you, but it's not. You've got to make a really long sweeping turn coming up for this final gate here to end the section. You've got a steep climb on a 90-degree bend. There's not many rigs are going to make that, promise you that for now. That's the end of the first course. You've got 5 minutes to get through all those gates with as few penalty points as you can possibly accrue. But then you've got to go to section 2, which we'll see later.
The rocks seem very wet and slippery, and in between the transitions in between the gates are very muddy, which is meaning the rocks don't actually give you much traction. So tyre choice is very important. I think compound is very important, and inserts.
It's got to be about the tyres. If you ain't got the rubber, you're not in the shout. It would take compound to clear between rock to rock. If you fill them up with mud, you're on a slick.
The other thing to look at is the fact that it's quite sunny on some of the rocks, and that will change as the sun moves, and should dry some sections
But
up.
what's worse, wet sticky mud or dry dusty? Wet could be tacky,
Yeah.
dusty's going to be slippy.
But once you've got wet mud on your tyre, you're screwed. You're screwed. If you've got dust on your tyre, you're not.
We should spin off, fair point.
Cut out inside with ball bearings in them,
Yeah.
so that as it's going, the weight's always staying down the bottom. So it means you get more traction.
Yeah.
So it's quite good. And then you can get extra balls and just fill the hole in the rear up.
Done. Let's go and catch up with Ryan, who's laid out course 1. Ryan, give us a second. You just had a look around section 1, mate. You've just laid it out, yeah?
Yes,
I
right.
used my old original rig to get some idea of what people are going to manage, correct? Yeah? You get all the way around, or is there going to be some tricky traps stuck in there for us?
The idea is on section 1, beginners are going to have a good go. It's fairly challenging, but
Good stuff.
you've got a good chance with a standard rig. The second course, not so.
You haven't laid that out yet?
Not yet.
When's that going to get laid out?
That'll be in about half an hour.
What rigs are you running?
I've got woolly axles,
Right.
banana chassis.
The banana chassis. Twin vertical links, loss of shock, holes, position holes for your triangulation. Castle Creations Mamba Max. So you got motor and axle. No torque twist. So you're running 9mm packs either side of the servo.
Yep.
Brushed motors. Delrin skid plate or a nylon?
Chopping board.
Chopping board.
That's a nylon chopping board turned to a skid plate. Good idea. Do like that. What have we got back here then?
It's a double dig.
Ah, electric dig, right, because you've got brush motors front and rear,
Yeah.
and you've got an interrupt. So you can, does it short the motor out or just open the wires?
It don't short it, it opens it up.
So it just opens, so it doesn't power.
No,
Yeah.
So it basically follows
just
up.
kills it, yeah.
So will it still roll over?
No,
It's quite a stiff gearbox, isn't it?
because you've got a brake on the Mother Max as well, holding
Right.
it back a little bit.
But when it interrupts the circuit, it's just opened the motor, hasn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah,
So
but
that'll be like just freewheeling.
yeah, but these are really tight, so
So you've got a strong motor magnet, so you've got a high gear ratio, it's going to act pretty much like a handbrake anyway. Tiny little servo, operates one way, interrupts one motor, operates the other way, interrupts the other motor. So you're going to front drive, or rear drive, or four-wheel drive. Clever, I like that.
there's
example.
different ways of doing the wiring connections as well. But
Sure.
if you just go along with the way he's described it,
That's cool.
quite easy.
That's what a lot of the Americans are doing now. I suppose motor and axle, you've got to come up with something.
I want to look at the new digital ones though.
There's an actual unit
There's
there.
a digital
Car
unit
seat.
you can buy.
Yes, I think
So-
Pete's got one of those.
Yeah,
Dig
so
switch.
I'll have a look at it later.
Yeah, it's a really low chassis, isn't it? Shocks are quite an angle, so if you
Yeah.
drove the front, it would stretch itself out.
It does.
And if you power just the rear, it'll stand up.
It pimps itself.
So
yeah.
you can slam
pimp,
it,
Pimp my
or
ride.
you can jack it,
Yeah.
depending on how you drive it.
And it does
I like
drop
that.
as well.
Drive the front, it'll pull the chassis out long. Drive just the rear, it'll jack the chassis up. I like that. I look forward to seeing that go. Well done, chaps. Well, we'll leave the pits to play for a bit and we'll go see what they're setting up for course 2. Got Ryan and Andy here having a discussion about where it's going to go and how best they can use the rocks available.
This one is the harder section.
Yeah. So you cheer them all up in the morning.
Cheer them all up, knock them all down.
Knock them all down.
Yeah. This will be the harder section, which will probably be down to a bit of time as well as,
Right.
as skill, you know. Just trying to map out a course that is drivable, but you know, challenging.
To come across here, to drop off onto that rather than just a straight drive
Sure,
across.
sure. Yeah, yeah. Got to drink across it.
Yeah, and maybe even come across these rocks.
Hence the other one wedged in there.
And obviously, once we've set them all out, we drive them with a standard axial and with a motor on axle, the Berg, just to make sure that it's doable.
Yeah.
And my tuber that hasn't got a dig, it's just straight through channel.
Straight through, yeah.
The top 10 is going to be a rearranged version of the bottom here because of the spectator side of things, basically. We've got some quite nasty surprises for that one.
So they don't just get to rerun section 1, they get a completely new challenge. Go on, Cossack. Great. Yeah, yeah.
Progress on 5. Gate talk on 8. Yeah, 9. Gate clear on 9.
So Mal, what dragged you here on this sunny day to play with crawlers?
It's fun, I guess, isn't it?
You got an interesting front linkage here, can I have a look?
Yeah.
So you're running saddle packs either side of the axle, the old 9-wise, and you've kinked your rod to give more clearance to the front diff case,
Yeah.
so you're not getting hung up with a straight linkage. You have to run a taller linkage. That's all good, it's all about more...
I've just changed the servo for a
Right.
higher torque servo,
Right,
and I had a bent link on here before,
sure.
but because of what's happened on it now, it catches on this front edge.
Right.
So I've just gone for a straight link to try that now.
You made that today?
Yeah. Well, no, I've just had that link, so I've
Right.
obviously bring all my bits and pieces. I build all the stuff, whatever I do myself.
Right.
So so I bent that the other day to try it, and
Sure.
it's a lot better because using the servo arm down before, obviously straight down, it's a lot lower.
Right.
Using a long arm, so you get plenty of
Plenty of throw.
throw. It's obviously it gives you more throw than you actually need.
Right, so you can turn your endpoint down a little bit.
I haven't got them on this. That's the only problem. So
Okay. So you've had to adapt this because that won't do it.
well, it'll do it. Obviously, I've turned it off because I've got to put a BEC in it.
Right.
But as you can see, that's full.
Right, it's not using a lot of angle, is it?
That's
overstretching,
As you see,
yeah.
that's overstretching.
But
So
when
I
you're
need
under
to-
load, it'll give you that torque you need to lift it.
It's got a hell of a lot of torque on that one.
Yeah, it's the high
Different
torque
servo,
XP, yeah. Any other good bits on it you made yourself?
The chassis I've modified, the base plate I've made,
Right,
because the original one is out of Delrin.
that's right.
As you can see, really, I made all the links are made, homemade.
All alley.
All Ali, yeah.
Yeah.
It's 6mm tube, would you believe, from B&Q, solid bar,
Yeah, I would believe.
drilled, and then all threaded.
Right.
These are, you remember the axle top links,
Yes, I do, yeah.
cut in half and just modified.
I'm with
So
you,
they'll,
So you've got a lot of triangulation going on there.
yeah, you got the triangulation. Obviously, is the wrong way round compared to normal,
Right, so you've got parallel tops and triangular bottoms.
which gives it a lot more articulation. It's an idea from Matt,
Right.
a friend of mine, and obviously I made these
Stand up
so it can
posts.
give me.
Yeah.
Made these little alley pieces,
Yeah.
so it'll give me that.
Your linkages nice and high.
Same on the front.
Get them horizontal.
Same on the front in there. So
Sure.
that was the original lipo plate on the front there, but
Right.
obviously modified that. Just needs a bit of tweaking here and there just to get it to. It slides quite nicely now. I had it was a bit higher. I had some long rod ends on there before, which made it too high.
So you just
But
slammed
all
the
I
rig a
wanted
bit.
to do was every time you sort of got up and it was just about to flick, it had just flick
Just roll
over just
over.
too far. I had like 3.25 inches ground clearance before, so I've dropped it down.
Right
Obviously,
down.
it's down to about 2 3/4 now.
It's a
So
fairly short shot on there as well.
yeah, and not, well, as you can see, it still gives it the what you want, really. Progress on 4.
Nice.
One's completely. Guys, how'd you get on today? So
Yeah.
far.
Had a problem with the dig. It was an absolute nightmare. Just
Jamming.
wouldn't come out. Yeah, it would go in fine, just wouldn't come out. If I hadn't had that, it would have been
So
not
you
too
were
bad. So.
Basically pulling yourself around with just front wheel drive.
Well, not all of it. Just this gate 6 was around that area. Just dig just wouldn't come out. So had a load of problem through that. So
That
it's
just
not good.
shows in a way the advantage of the MOA rigs and the electronic digs.
Yeah, very true.
Mechanical digs, if you set them up right, can work really well. But
Yeah,
the problem is
that's right,
when
yeah.
they jam,
You've
everything
got
goes
no
wrong.
chance. Yeah, so just no, not good at all.
What are you thinking about the second course then? It looks harder.
It looks very interesting.
It was my go in a minute, so all seems to...
Yeah, certainly will.
At least the weather's getting better as well.
Well,
Rocks are
things
drying out.
Yeah, that's it. It's drying out a bit. We can only try, can't we? It's all good fun. That's the main thing.
So you're going to get your dig fix ready for the...
I'm going to go and have a play in a
Next
minute, and I've got some springs. I've got an idea with the springs. See if I can spring it back. I've got some on there already, but they're obviously I'm going to change it. So we'll give it a go.
If not, just run without the dig. Keep it in four-wheel drive, and you know you've got no problems.
Yeah.
Right, Steve.
How we doing, Des?
So they call you Speedy.
They do.
So how many rigs you brought with you?
I've bought 3.
So what you got here then? What's this
That
for?
is, started out as an AX10, everything bar the axles.
You got
and
Delrin galore in there, haven't you?
the whole chassis, Delrin, skid plate, links.
You got a dig unit in there.
Yep, it's the old Visionary Fabrications, now more commonly known as DNA.
Right. What's the pink one?
The pink one is another AX10,
Another AX10.
running longer shocks.
Oh, okay.
That's running the lossy 4-inch crawler shocks.
Right.
And then obviously slightly different chassis because we've got longer shocks on, just to
Short.
try something different, different chassis designs.
It's very pink.
It is the girlfriends, you know.
This one looks new.
That is the brand new lossy comp crawler. It's,
Right. All alley links. So have you chosen one to run tomorrow?
It's been chosen for me. I actually blew the servo up on the dig unit in the axle, so I'll be running the lossy.
So rather than bring a spare servo, you just bring a whole spare truck.
Yeah, well, I got the lossy last week
Right.
and put it together, and so it will be its first outing. And
Maiden outing. Well, it'll be interesting how it goes. One of the first few in the country, isn't it?
it's, yeah, I think there's 3 in the country now in total.
That'll be interesting how it goes. What are you doing to Pete's? What's he got in there?
So this is the actual dig unit. It's just a bolt-on extension to the axle transmission. What you have to do, if I undo these 2 screws, is you have to change the output on the gearbox
Right.
because it has
To adapt to the dig unit.
Yeah, it has
Right.
a selector, like a sliding pin. This is the output from the transmission. What you have to do is change the internal
Right.
part of it because it has this selector pin on it, a sliding pin. And then inside the dig
You motor in half.
there is the mating half with a rod that pushes the selector forwards and backwards. So it engages, disengages, and then the further you go back it then locks the rear axle up completely.
That's only on the rear.
Only on the rear.
Right.
Yeah, this rock crawler's only got front dig, which means that the rear wheel's locked, so the front wheels stay free.
Okay. You think if it activated on the rear, they call it a rear dig.
Yeah.
But the fronts are still operating normally. It's the rears that can interrupt it.
Strange, yeah. But now we've investigated and found his rattle, I can put it back together.
Hopefully he'll get through tomorrow unscathed.
If he actually runs it, it'd be nice to see, because this is a new DNA torsion chassis.
Right.
Rather than having shocks like a conventional, it has a torsion rod that's part of the chassis and uses that.
So that's your actual spring.
That's the spring action.
That's your actual spring.
So as you move, it flexes the dowel ring, and that's your spring action.
How many repeats can a dowel ring take before it gives up?
I don't know, they've had guys in the States that seem to say it doesn't actually fatigue, which will be interesting to see the lifespan. I mean, obviously, you would think it would start to go dry and fatigue, but...
Well, if anybody can test it, Pete can.
Oh, Pete will test it to destruction, I'm sure.
Go through.
Wet, horrible.
Diggity.
Before any rock crawling event, you have to have your rig scrutineered. So I'll now pass it over, where wheelbase will be checked. It's got to be within a 12.5-inch maximum wheelbase dimension.
Yes. Always check both sides due to linkages not always being correct.
And it's also with the rig at rest, under its own weight.
That's fine. That's well under. Also check wheel width, which is 12.5 inches as well, and the body length, which is a minimum of 12.5 inches, which that is spot on, Pete.
And the other dimension is you must have a minimum of 3 inches body on the depth for it to be legal. So I've passed scrutineering. I can now enter the competition and run my rig.
Six clear. Seven clear. Can you dig it? Yeah, that's the reverse.
What are you up to?
I'm having another go for a challenge at the wall.
You going for the crawl wall again?
Yeah.
What are you doing? Softer tyres?
No, same tyres.
Yeah.
Just a lot more weight
Over the front?
over the front.
Right. Oh yeah, I can feel,
Yep.
can feel the weight in there. Right, so you're back for more.
Oh yes.
Never say die. So what are you actually going to run tomorrow?
Same rig.
Same rig? But you're going to run your lightweight wheels? You're
Yeah,
gonna-
probably run my own wheels.
Yeah? Does help on the crawl. Definitely helps. Bigger footprint. See if you can blag them for tomorrow. Sure you won't mind.
Depends if he's going to use them himself.
We'll find out in the
But,
morning.
we shall see.
Is this your scaler?
That's my Scala, yeah.
A roof box full of tools. High-rise sand jack. You've got an axe and a shovel in there, if I'm not mistaken.
And the pry bar,
And a pry bar, yeah.
tow rope, paint, ground sheet and holes.
Well, you're going prepared for the worst. What are you expecting?
You never know with me.
What have we got underneath here?
Bog standard. The only change to it is the drop link on the rear suspension
Right.
to give it more.
Yeah. Sweet. Do like scalers. Bit more realism.
Progress on 5.
Nice, nice.
How did your run go?
First 4 gates went to plan, then come to gate 5, 6 and 7 where the mud was causing problems at the bottom of the rocks and between the rocks where you're getting traction.
Yeah.
And every angle you tried was just too slippery because the tyres had got clogged up so much. And to come up over, it was just potluck then. You just had to try and put as much speed to get up as you could.
Well, we're halfway through the day, everybody's had lunch, had a bit of fun. Everybody's had one run this morning and we're into the second round. Conditions are drying up, the water's fell out the trees, the rocks seem to be drying. Grip's coming up, but whether that favours the brave or not, we're about to find out. No dig, gonna have to do a reverse. Knickers. One reverse coming up. Pretty please.
Oh.
You like? I like that.
Yeah.
That's for a box rig, is it?
It's clear.
Take a reverse because I ain't going to make that right, I think.
Reverse.
Come on please, go up there. I'll take a reverse.
Right, reverse. Seven clear.
This is the good one. Please? Pretty please? Come on. Yay.
Eight clear.
Please. Seen so many fail here. It'd be nice to go up this and just finish it, wouldn't it? 3.5 minutes. I got power for an hour. How long you got? Oh! I cleared that gate before I touched it. Can you reposition me, please?
Yeah, roll over.
Well, if you can see on the green link here what the downfall was. I wasn't even getting to bash the gearbox because the steering link was holding me up. And time and again I got hooked up on a little bit of rock. Had to take a reverse and another stab at it, but that's how it goes. I'll have a higher link next year.
One clear.
I didn't do last year's. Tony and Neil did last year's, but this is my first national, but really enjoyed it. I'm pleased it didn't get cancelled because it's a good day out. How do you have time, guys?
7 clear. 2.5 minutes to go, right, mate?
Plenty of time, mate.
8 clear.
Bang on. Alright. Just Ryan sent me up to relieve it.
I'm cool. It's alright. I've had a drink, got it wrong, getting a drink, I'm cool.
Come on.
10 clear.
I think there's only 2 girls who were here today, so a bit of a. I think it's more so because I came to the Nationals last year just to watch, so and I thought, well, I might as well give it a go. But it was gate 2 that no one could get up. I don't know whether you videoed that. That was really hard on the first section. I think it's quite slippy as well. But I didn't hit any gates on the second one, just a few reverses, and possibly more than a few. So yeah, it's all good fun.
This is Chris Tutman. He's designed his own chassis called the Limey. This is the first running competition it's had. He's done lots of testing with it. Have a look, see what his run's like.
clear. 2 clear, well done. 3 clear.
Clear on 5. Hey, clear on 6. Clear on 7. Clear on 9. Clear on 10, 255, awesome. Well done.
Well, we've had both rounds now, and it's time for the top 10 shootout. Top 10 guys are going to go over a specially arranged course, selected by the guys who set the course, especially hard to really push them to the limits, see what they can do. So let's have a look at them in action. First off is Matt Brooks. He's our 2008 defending champion. He's got everything to prove and everything to lose. Let's see how he gets on.
Reverse. Clear on 1. Reverse. Reverse. Sorry, you are right. Ring position 20, yeah. Six is clear. Seven's clear. Eight's clear. Nine's clear and finish.
Next up we've got Neil Clee. See how he goes.
Clear 1. Clear 2. Clear 3. Clear 4. Clear 5. Clear 6. What? Yep. Sorry, I thought you were on that. 7.
Nice one, well done, mate.
Third off is Lee Forsyth, just about to hit the rocks on the special final stage.
Reverse. That's it. Reverse. Reverse. Well done. One. Two.
Lee Forsyth had a little roll there, just pulled a shock and a prop shaft out, so he's got to go for repair. That's some bad points he's accrued there.
0 on 5. Reverse. Clear on 6. Reverse. Clear on 8. 9 clear. One's there.
That's it. Next up is Mike Davis. See how he gets on.
One clear. One clear. Reverse. Three clear. Five clear. Six and 7 clear. Eight clear. Nine.
Here we go with Mark Barker. Go on, Mark.
Reverse. Reverse. One. Two. That's 2 clear. Reverse. Three clear. 5 clear. Seven clear. 8.
Next up we've got Rough Rider. Al Help's real name. Let's see how he gets on. Go on, Rough Rider.
1 clear. 2 clear. 5 clear. 6 clear. 7 clear. 8 clear. 9 clear. 1 clear.
Okay, next up we've got Amy Rawlings, top lady driver, the only lady to make it into the top 10. See how she gets on.
1 clear. 3 clear. 4 clear. 5 clear. 6 as well.
7 clear.
Amy's had a bit of a problem in the course. She's had an impact on the rear motor and it squashed the brush, stopping rear drive. She's had to go for a repair. It's going to cost her points and put her out of the top 3 for certain.
When you're ready? Front or rear? Yeah. Okay, Ronnie.
Dig a bit. Watch 10.
Well done. 53.
Next up's Mick Sanger, our chef. Let's see how he gets on, see if he can steer as well as he can cook.
But it's still with the bandwidth. 1 clear. 2 clear. 3 clear. 5 clear. 7 clear. 8 clear. 9 clear. Well done. 53.
this isn't a young man's sport. He goes with Tony Clee, showing the young'uns a trick or two.
Clear one. Clear three. Clear five. Clear seven. Clear eight.
And last to run is Mike Richards. He's seen everybody else in action. See if he's learnt any tips and tricks, watching them fail. See if he can pull himself up.
Clear one. Clear two. Clear three. Clear four. Clear five. Big touch on seven. Clear nine. What an awesome weekend, eh? Yeah. Round of applause. Third, the chef Mick Sanger.
Stick around, we'll do the pictures after. Just
Yeah,
all right. Cameron.
Second place, Neil Clee. And first, from 10th starting, I think we all know who it is at this point, Al Help. Well done, mate. Well done, mate.
Okay, we're here with Rough Rider, Al.
Hello.
Winner, congratulations, mate. Show us your rig. What you got there?
Berg axles,
Berg axles,
kamikaze chassis, and links.
kamikaze. Is that all nylon?
It is all nylon.
It's all white nylon.
And
Big skids under the gearboxes.
Torsion and no shocks.
No shocks at all. It's all torsion.
Yeah.
It's a twisty chassis. Fantastic. Let's have a quick look inside.
No worries.
There you go. Look at that. No shocks at all. None whatsoever. Is that the future rock crawling, do you think, Al?
I just wanted something different, to be honest.
Because I know there's a couple of rigs coming out with torsion, no
There
shocks.
is, yeah.
And feeling that, I mean, that's got no torsional rigidity at all. That's like a big old wobbly jelly. Look at that.
Flows.
It's got absolutely nothing, so it's just going to... You've got a lot of weight over both axles. And it's not even like front biased, is it? It's sort of equal 50-50.
Slightly, it is slightly, yeah.
What speedo's that, Al?
Tekin FXR.
Little Tekin on the back there. And that's running both motors?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
And Punk RC dig.
No, the electric dig.
Uh-huh.
Little circuit in there. And that cuts power to front and rear as you select.
Yep.
Fantastic. Got XP servos. Little lipo pack on the back. Couldn't ask for much more than that, could you? What sort of spec of motors?
Infinity.
What sort of wind? 50 turn
40
or faster?
turn hand wound.
40 turn. Who wound them?
Lesro models.
Lesro.
Daryl.
Oh, yeah. Fantastic. So simple, so effective.
Yeah.
What could you ask for?
Well, it worked.
Was it lacking anything? If you were going to improve it, what would you do?
Grip this morning in the wet.
Tyres?
It wouldn't have it at all.
To be fair, I don't think anything gripped in the wet this morning. I think you're hanging on by your last thread there.
Yeah.
Is that lucky or what?
It is, yeah.
That's just about to fall off, Al. That's on
That's
its
close,
last.
that's very close.
That's on its last turn of thread. Fantastic. Just want to say congrats again, and we'll
Thanks,
see you
Chris.
next year, mate.
Thanks.
Top job, mate.
Cheers.
So there you go. It's a wrap. It's over for another year, and can look forward to more. And I'll be back. I'm sure there'll be some more crazy chassis to look at. We'll take a look at them in depth in the magazine as usual.